So if there's one thing BMW got absolutely spot on about the R18 Pure is the styling of it. However, that's only one part of the equation, and we're here to find out, is this bike all style and no substance? Well, let's get into it. So, let's dive into the styling for a bit, shall we? BMW obviously had a brief they were given by the higher-uppers, and they knocked it out of the park. It's a nod to its heritage brought bang up to date for the 21st century. There's a simplicity in its approach. Uncomplicated, with a good, solid feel in the build quality. The finer details like the badging, for instance, are exquisite. And it must be said, this bike looks fantastic in black. It's still a 50-50 call on those fishtail pipes though, but enough style talk. Let's go for a ride. The power delivery is nothing short of incredible. There's plenty torque to get you going with a bit of an elastic feel on the throttle, but in its defense, there are two giant cylinders that need to wake up and get going. But once it does, this bike becomes a freight train. Revving at a standstill causes a violent rock to the left, letting you know she means business. And look, 1800 cc's is a lot, no matter how you slice it. There's a rough and rumble feel to this bike that thankfully smooths out as you climb through the rev range. And the R18 certainly is eager to get up to speed, almost as if it doesn't know it's supposed to be a refined and sophisticated gentleman. Let's talk about the three ride modes: rock, roll, and rain. Rock is the most aggressive mode, letting loose all of the torque as it rocks and rumbles throughout the bike, trying to rip your arms off. Roll turns the beast into a gentleman, smooth throttle control and manageable power for the suburbs. And rain is, well, rain mode. Something else that's pretty surprising is the fact that despite the enormous size of the engine, very little heat is transferred to the rider. Once you're cruising, in-gear acceleration is great for lazy sixth gear overtakes. There's plenty of power on tap for that sort of thing. But make no mistake, if you want to ride it in anger, it will oblige. It's best you hold on. While we might be split on the looks of the exhaust, it does sound pretty good. Just take a listen to this. BMW branded brakes work fantastic, considering the amount of weight it has to bring to a standstill. The initial brake feel is good, with a progressive squeeze of the lever slowing you down pretty rapidly. The rear brake, on the other hand, isn't nearly as responsive. The brakes are linked, which is probably a safe bet for this kind of bike, and ABS tends to err on the side of caution, kicking in pretty early to keep things civilized. The suspension is hard and pretty stiff, meaning you feel the road through your bum quite a lot. The forks are non-adjustable, and if there's any preload adjust on the rear, we couldn't find it. The flip side of the coin is, because the bike is on the stiff side, it handles great in corners, giving you tons of confidence right up until you run out of ground clearance. The heft this bike carries adds to the planted feel, making this a bike you can ride harder than its refined looks would lead you to believe. Let's not beat around the bush here, it's heavy, but not that you'd notice it that much once it's on the move and in a straight line. It's incredibly well balanced with all that weight carried down low. In city riding, it takes more effort to muscle around though. Moving it around and getting off the kickstand, you are aware of its size. Also, be warned, lean it over too far and suddenly you feel the full 345 kilos. The Bridgestone Battlecruise H50s fitted as standard never once gave us any issues. We rode around on a wide variety of road surfaces and the result was always the same, grippy and confidence inspiring. But for most owners, this will come down to personal preference. The reach to the handlebars is great, placing you in a nice, relaxed and slightly forward position. Something to note here is the grips. They're pretty thick and chunky, which makes operations easy for people with bigger hands, but smaller-handed folk might find it a bit odd. The seat, while not generously padded, is sculpted and does a great job of keeping you in place when cracking on. However, moving forward and backwards is limited. Things take a bit of a turn when it comes to lower body placement. The relationship between your knees, hips and feet vary greatly according to your height. Anything under 1.7 meters and you'll probably get along just fine. Above 1.8 meters, however, less so. Your feet meet the pegs at an angle that's higher than you'd like it and a bit too far back below your knee, pushing you forward. This makes for a bike with a time limit on it. 45 minutes between stops is the most we could comfortably manage. Fortunately, that massive engine doesn't get in the way nearly as much as you think it would. There's no wind protection, but it does make it easier to lean into the wind blast without any buffeting. There's also a bit of a limit to where you'd be comfortable cruising without the parachute effect coming into play. Keep it at legal speeds and you'll be smiling all the way. As far as switchgear is concerned, it's all easy to find, well built, and everything you touch feels nice and solid. A bit heavy on the chrome though, but hey, some like it shiny. On the left side we find cruise control, hazards, ABS on-off switch, weirdly, a menu button, mode selector, indicators, and a little baby sounding horn. On the right, heated grips, engine start, and kill switch. The dash also went heritage, with a simple single clock setup featuring a speedometer with an LCD screen below, displaying info such as fuel economy, a digital tach, mode, trip info, and gear position indicator. It's beautifully backlit and easy to read in all lighting conditions. There's just one teeny tiny detail missing, a fuel gauge. It will warn you when you hit reserve, but that's about it. Perhaps a throwback to the R5 of the 30s this bike is based on. Either way, a misstep in our opinion. Fortunately, there's a bit more tech on this than there was on its R5 ancestor. These include hill start control, 3 different riding modes, switchable ABS, 3-level heated grips, an alarm system, traction control, cruise control, reverse gear, and keyless ride, with the disappointingly plastic feeling fob. Overall, a great blend of old-fashioned looks with a good dose of modern luxuries. We very much approve. The pillion seat isn't particularly wide nor very cushioned. The passenger pegs are at least positioned in a comfortable spot. Because the rider is leaned forward, the pillion leans forward too. The ride is hard and vibey, so passengers might not enjoy long-distance traveling on this bike. But, with all that being said, the bike is very happy to carry 2 people without any issue. There certainly isn't any lack of power. The R18 rocks a 16-litre tank, good for an average of 6.2 litres per 100 k's, returning about 200 k's per tank. And honestly, the range is actually fine for this bike. When the reserve fuel light comes on, you have 30 k's to find fuel. A nice little hack is to pop the bike in rain mode, giving you a bit more boost in range. The fuel cap is an annoyance. It's weird to figure out, and then once it's off, you're left standing with the cap in your hand while filling up. Very cumbersome, but we guess it fits with the heritage theme. There was no luggage on the bike we had on test. Perhaps it's available as an accessory from BMW. We'll follow up on this with a Q&A video, so be sure to keep an eye out for that. The seat feels hard with not a lot of give. Thankfully, BMW has other seat options available. On the plus side, however, it's low enough to accommodate shorter riders, making the bike accessible to a wider audience. Finding a position for the mirrors that works for you takes a bit of effort, but that's about the worst we can say about it. The glass is clear and of great quality. It doesn't vibe once the bike smooths out, and it works well with the look of the bike. Maybe an inch bigger might have been nice, but that's true for most things in life. The clutch can feel pretty heavy. However, the engagement point is super close, so it's only in slow speed traffic crawling where it becomes noticeable. There's a ton of torque that causes the bike to walk when you let the clutch out even slightly. Restraining it can get tiring. Changes feel as smooth as butter on the way up, contrary to what the looks of this bike would lead you to believe. The shifter is easy to find and operate, except if you have some really chunky boots. There's no quick shifter on the R18, but it wouldn't suit this bike anyway. Make sure to keep your wits about you when gearing down though. Abrupt downshifts have the tendency to get the rear a bit loose, so be sure to match your speed on downshifts. Neutral is super easy to find. Engine running or parked up, it doesn't matter. Just one small pull on the shifter and Bob's your uncle. But that also means false neutrals can occur if you shift lazily, so don't. The lock-to-lock turning circle is smaller than you think on a bike as substantial as this. Obviously helped by the weight carried down low, you always feel confident handling the R18. Parking isn't scary at all, despite being a big bike, partly because you know you have a reverse gear to get you out of a tight spot. Definitely an awesome addition to this bike. Sometimes tricky to engage, but super handy to have. It has a quick response initially, but thumbing the starter will gradually get you backed out. And for those wondering, it has a 20-degree slope maximum. The lighting setup overall is excellent on the R18. The brights work a treat. Daytime running lights look great and is awesome for visibility to other road users. As far as see and be seen is concerned, it scores very well. Something worth pointing out, however, is due to the indicator located inside of the brake lights, it's hard for vehicles behind you to see whether you're indicating or not. The kickstand is easy to find and get up or down. It's long and chunky, so you always feel confident that the bike is secure once extended. Just make sure you have enough space to flick it out without it catching on curbs or innocent bystanders. Is it beginner friendly? In our opinion, absolutely not. It's simply too heavy and too powerful. Not to mention expensive should you put it down. There are definitely better bikes to start out on. Is this the bike to have if you could only have one? No. There are some that would manage to live with it daily, but most people will use it as a weekend statement bike. But that's no bad thing. Buy this bike and you'll be oozing cool. Park it up anywhere and be prepared to make small talk with strangers. The competition to the R18 will most typically be the following. There is an obvious nod to its great-granddad, the R5, but this is heritage done right. There's beauty in its simplicity, a sense of quality and attention to detail that only the Germans could pull off. And it's the perfect platform to customize, personalize, and truly make your own. The pinstriping, the exposed drive shaft, the beautiful badging, complemented by generous amounts of chrome, give this bike an undeniable X-factor. It's all attitude from start to finish. Parked up at stoplights or a coffee shop, you will draw attention. And all of this before you've even started the bike. That 1800cc heart absolutely steals the show. This is not a motorcycle, it's a statement, and the message is clear. Retro is all the rage. Thanks for watching.